My name is Sharon. I'm an addict, an alcoholic, and in the group we are not saints. So where it all began, my script. So I was born in 1957, east end of Toronto, Scarborough. My relationship with my mother was not good. From earliest memories, it was like I just put a crimp in her life. Her bitterness against me and my dad was expressed all the time, especially really meanly when she was intoxicated. My dad had been a drinker and had quit. I never saw him drink. I never really got to talk to him about that. I would like to, actually, but we didn't talk about it. He worked at Massey Ferguson. He was a hard worker. That was what he did. He worked. He worked at Massey Ferguson. He worked in our yard. He did work in the house. He worked. He took the TTC there. That was his life. But I do know that he loved me very much, and that's really great. I had a brother, Floyd, who was a small family. Don't worry, there's not too many. I had a brother, Floyd, though. He was 18 years my senior. And I remember doing more things with him than with either of my parents in the first 10 years of my life. He came to my parent-teacher interview in grade 4, and then the summer after that, he left the family. He disappeared. He went out west to a wedding with my mom and was supposed to come back and did not come back. It had just been the two of them, my mother and Floyd. His dad died in World War II, and he was 5. So for 10 years, it was just the two of them, and they had a really tight bond. I mean, I can remember doing things certainly with the both of them, like they let me play poker with them. But I was always the kid, and obviously I'm, a lot younger. I'm a kid, right? I remember being in the basement at home, and my mom and Floyd had put a lot of newspaper piles at the end of the basement, and they were shooting their guns into them. And I remember being down there, and my mom really making me feel like a sissy because I didn't like that. It was really noisy, and I don't remember my brother ever making me feel bad, but that was kind of like what the relationship was like a lot. My dad never liked the guns. Floyd leaving the family was really, really critical. They thought at first he was missing for 2 years, and a missing person is really horrible. Like, I've found that since when I've experienced somebody maybe missing. It's terrible, and you just want it to be over as fast as possible, like almost maybe to know the person's dead, just to get it over with. My dad thought maybe he'd gone to Vietnam. My mom had a lot of police forces, she'd contacted. She just didn't know what had happened. Then 2 years later, a relative saw him working on the railroad in New Westminster and had him over for dinner, and he was lucid and knew who he was and knew who the family was. And that was when my mother especially realized that he had made a decision to leave her. And that was when her addiction problems and mental health issues really started to spiral. It was just really devastating for her. Yeah, my mom, this whole gun thing, my mom was really proud of her. My brother had given her a small ornate Beretta, and we had like a revolver pistol kind of thing my brother had left. My mother she really liked to scare me with them. She wouldn't like hold my head with the gun against my head, but she would often, point them at me, and she just really seemed to get off on seeing how scared I was in this like pseudo humorous, fucked up way. So that was really crappy. I think my dad followed down the firing pins at one point, so that was good, but it's just not a good feeling. I came home once, I think I was about 12, and I don't think she was trying to scare me with this one. I came in the back door, I walked up, I looked in the kitchen, and she was sitting there at the table with the gun to her head, and she looked at me and said that it was all my fault. So that was kind of like the relationship there. It wasn't a good one. She also liked to scare me in other ways, like with spiders, like really, with spiders. I'm afraid of spiders. And she really shamed me, like in ways that were, specific to the parts of your body that blossom in puberty, and with other people, in crowds. It was just, she was not a nice person. She was really not a nice person. And I've tried to often kind of think of it in a better light, as in she was maybe trying to toughen me up, maybe, like, as, like that's what a mother does, but really she was just a cruel person. And she was like that with my father too. Yeah, so anyways, that was that. Yeah, she shamed him badly. He just retreated more and more into his work. He, like his method of sobriety, he didn't drink, but it was never a model for me, because their social life totally eroded, because he was like that, she was like that with him. Like, once we had people over and she was drunk and threw a plate of spare ribs at him. So they just stopped having people over, and it was all about his work. Yeah, so I was not a carefree child. I wouldn't say I was depressed. I had a lot of gumption to think about things to do, and I was always kind of trying to get my way into groups of kids, but I behaved in ways that was not endearing to other parents. I know I threw a kid's camera down the loo at a summer camp in our neighborhood, because in those days, most families had a lot of kids, like the Bells had 7, the Buckleys had 5, and there was a lot of kids around, and I stole Debbie Webster's Barbie dolls, and then her mom told her she couldn't have me, and I gave John May X-Lax. I don't think I was trying to hurt him, but I told him it was chocolate, and that's just, I think, just a stupid kid thing. I think it's just to see what's going to happen. But then me and Maureen Buckley were making phony phone calls, and we gave them Maureen Buckley's phone number to phone back, which I'm sure was my idea, but then her family forbade her to see me for the whole summer, and that was kind of critical, because a summer's a long time when you're like 10 years old, 9, 10 years old, and you kind of just lose touch with the other kids, and then you're the outsider more, and I don't know, it just sucked. And my family wasn't the type that would ever get involved with other parents to maybe kind of talk it out and smooth it over in a week, or, my mom didn't really meet with the other parents. There was a neighbor next door, Mr. Darling. He'd come by with a 40-ounce of vodka fairly regularly. And my dad he was very socially isolated. He had a hearing problem too. So if he's working in the yard and somebody's maybe talking to him, he probably didn't hear it. But anyways. So, right. So again, I wonder what my motivation was. Maybe I was jealous of Debbie Webster and her Barbies, maybe the kid at camp, whatever. But my field's early childhood education, and there's this concept of negative attention seeking, where if you don't get any positive attention, you do bad things because it gives you attention. I have a vivid memory of standing on this little landing at our side door. You go out, it's about this high off the ground. And I remember standing there, I don't know how old I was, but wanting to jump off of it, but land on my knee so that I might break my knee, and somebody would notice me. And that is so negative attention seeking and pretty sad. It's not a happy thought. So I started to use food. I wasn't fat in the little kid pictures, like, you know, when I was 4 and 5, I was like a normal sized kid. But I absolutely started to use food to relieve my stress, you know, comfort. And I did it in hiding. I mean, I can remember being in the kitchen and you're trying to squirt that whipped cream canister without my mom hearing it in the living room. I remember walking back from the store once, and I saw my dad. He was going to the bus to go to work, I guess midday, but I had these 5 chocolate bars, and I was trying to hold them, and they fell out of my coat. And I just remember being really ashamed. Like, it's that, like, whole thing of addiction. And, you know, I'm doing something wrong, but I need it, I like it, I want it, it makes me feel better. I was always the heaviest kid in class, you know, from grade 4 or 5 up that I can remember. And, you know, that comes with its own just sad crap. Then I read Go Ask Alice. I think I was 15, 14, 15, I think I was 15, but it was this book about this girl who had died. She was doing drugs, and her mother published her diaries. And the idea that the mom had was that it would deter people from doing drugs. Well, it didn't deter me from doing drugs at all. I rather connected with Alice. She made friends through drugs. She really liked LSD. I'd never tried that. I'd never tried anything. She lost weight with doing drugs, and I kind of liked that idea too. So I thought, wow, that's what I'm going to do. So that's what I did, because I wasn't too depressed to get out there and do stuff. So I did. It was the 70s in Scarborough. It was pretty clear who was doing drugs at school. So I walked up to this guy. I still know him to this day. You know, I walked up to Brock Fillmore and you know, said, "You got any uppers?" And he looked at me. I remember it. And I go, and then I made up this story. Like I said, well, I did drugs with my brother, and that's why you guys. I've never done them with you guys, but you know, I'm experienced because I don't want to look like a dweeb. So, anyways, that worked because people were pretty happy to sell the drugs, right? Like, so I kind of just started doing them, and it was instantly, wow, I like this. Like, I was the kid every night doing whatever, you know, acid until the tolerance goes up, which is super fast. But, you know, alone in my room, whereas the other kids in school seemed to me, most of them, to have parents who would notice if you were behaving in that kind of manner and maybe try to intervene, but it just became my escape, and it was just such a wonderful escape. I mean, I could lay in bed, you know, listening to the Beach Boys with my eyes closed, watching those spirals going around, or, you know, I'd sit up nights doing amphetamines, we call them bennies, like, just doing doodle arts all night. I don't know, that was what my life became, and I was instantly doing it all the time. I also went at that time to, my other way to meet drug addicts and to get attached to drugs was, I went to the local psych unit at Scarborough General and said I was a drug addict, which I didn't think I was a drug addict at that time. Hadn't even hardly done drugs at that time, just started at school a bit. And, but it was mostly just to meet drug addicts and get more drugs, because maybe there weren't enough at school, I don't know. So, and I've been familiar with mental health units because my mom had been in and out of them a lot. Actually, that was another way my mom was trying to toughen me up, because she had a lot of shock treatments. And I remember her sitting me down, she put on this, we were watching this movie. Well, she didn't put it on, there was no VCRs then, but it was on TV, right? She goes, "You gotta watch this," and it's Snake Pit. It's like a horror movie. And she's, like, that's for me to help understand what she's going through, getting these electroconvulsive shock treatments. Which, it was not like Snake Pit, okay? She was in a hospital, St. Henry, you know, half asleep getting them. But still, that's the kind of thing she did. So, anyway, so I go to this psych unit, and I think I got out of school. That was another reason why I liked going there. It was during the day, right? 10 o'clock, the drug addicts are coming together for a group thing. So I met this girl, and I met her there. She was 18, she was there. She had been awarded the Children's Aid. She was quite promiscuous. She'd already had a baby. They didn't know what to do with her. That's why she was there. I made friends with her and met other drug addicts. So that was kind of just how my life progressed then. So by the time I was 18, we'll fast forward like 2 years. So by the time I was 18, I had been strip searched at the border, trying to get to the States because it was warmer. We were trying to hitchhike to Florida or somewhere. Funny, they didn't want us in the States. No money, 2 kids. I had overdosed on something. It felt like PCP, but when you're on the road, you don't even know what you're doing, right? You just do whatever people give you. Woken up in a hospital in Blind River while we were hitchhiking to Vancouver. I had been before a judge on a possession of PCP charge. I narrowly missed an arrest with a larger quantity that would have ended me up in jail because it was after the PCP thing. I shared needles with strangers. My eyebrows were falling out, and my fingernails were rotting. But all that just kind of seemed like the normal stuff. What really, I think, got to me was that I couldn't finish my grade 12. I couldn't finish high school. Like I quit in grade 11. Teachers liked me then. I wasn't doing that crappy behavior. I was just like a drug addict at that point, and they felt for me. They saw this kid who needed some help. They were good. I had one geography teacher, got me involved in transcendental meditation. I had a Mr. Sheehan, my man in society teacher. I'd written a test on acid, and he gave it back to me, and it's like classic, right? There's like half a word, and then there's this long and I'm sure I really thought I was writing something down when I wrote it. Like, I know I did. Like, the one thing about drugs is you remember stuff. With alcohol, you black out. But I have a lot of memories of those first bunch of years, because you just remember stuff. He got me a dog. He ended up meeting my parents. He's going, a dog's going to solve this problem, right? So we got Ellie, the collie dog. So anyways, so all that's what's going on by the time I was 18. And and I couldn't finish high school. So like I said, I quit in grade 11, and I went back in grade 12. So I remember grade 12, like I'm starting a year behind my other friends who are in grade 13, and it's like I go in, it's like, okay, I'm not going to get wrecked. I'm not, I'm going to go to school. I'm going to get my grade 12. And first, second period, outside smoking hash behind the portable. I did end up getting my grade 12, but I was 21 years old. But I did get it, which is really great. But that's what first made me realize, I started to realize what a drug addict really was. And I started to realize if I can't fucking pass grade 12, I don't know, it just all kind of hit. So that was when I first tried AA. And I think it was 1975. I didn't try too hard to connect at first. The meetings I went to were really smoky, for one thing. I've always had a problem with really smoky rooms after spending a lot of time in bingo halls with my mother. I just didn't connect at all. I tried a bit of Addiction Research Foundation stuff, but I wasn't too motivated. God wasn't the issue then. I didn't even get that far. And then I met Randy. He grew up kind of in my area of Scarborough. Met him through a mutual friend. Came to be my husband. But it was really good. He really loved me. And I was attracted to him. It was like the first time that had really ever happened to me. And he brought so many good things into my life. He had a family that ended up being pretty dysfunctional too, but certainly appeared to be a wonderful family. I remember Christmas Eve early on, they had me stay over for Christmas Eve. I slept downstairs with his two sisters. There's a stocking at the end of the bed. He introduced me to art. He was really into the French Impressionists. He had great concert seats, so I got to see. He brought a really, really lot into my life. He was a a good person, a fun person, and just he just really loved me. So that changed things, because I mean, he was an addict already too, and that really changed things, because you know, it kind of got back to being fun using. It wasn't so tragic. I wasn't so worried about finishing grade 12 right away. I mean, I was still going. He'd take me on his motorcycle to Churchill. I remember him dropping me off. But it just all kind of slowed down, and it became a little bit more fun. And you know, it was back to just being fun drugs, and not I'm the sad person who's just the addict. So that was a good part of my life, and I rather enjoyed it. And we totally, all along, in the good times, you know, we just always fed off each other's excitement and projects and ideas, and you know, especially getting high, you got these great ideas, and if you're doing amphetamines, it's surprising how much crap you can get done. I mean, you follow up on it. I got a whole thing of handmade quilts at home. Like you follow up on all this stuff, and it was great. Like we'd get high, and then we'd be talking, and you know, ideas, and then we do them. We made Christmas cards every year. Like it was just really, really good. Yeah. So he never entertained the idea of quitting. He never has, and I still would always go through periods, mostly when drugs kind of went bad for me, like you do too much of one thing, and then it just, you know how life goes bad. You all know, you're sitting here, right? And I'd try AA again. That was when I really started to try AA, because I just didn't really know what else to do. You know, I used for a while, but then I really want to quit. Like, you always have that desperation of, you know, I gotta quit, I gotta change my life, and, you know, whether he wants to or not. And then we'd always have plans for him, and he was kind of into that then. Like, you know, maybe you just drink twice a week, or so many plans. But that just, anyway, they were difficult, and yeah, so anyway, so I'm trying AA. So that was when the God part started to be hard for me. I totally remember then, like, laying in bed, just staring at the light bulb, you know, going, that's being my higher power, and really trying to make it work, like, because that was part of what it was. I tried having sponsors, and I just could never say what they wanted to hear, you know, just let go and let God, or whatever they are. It didn't ring true with me. I couldn't, I really tried to make it happen though, like, because I wanted help, you know, yeah. So kind of hand in hand with this, there was like a 15-year span of bad things that happened. And then they really affected my life and how I see things, saw things. My mom died a really horrible alcoholic death. The preamble for a year or two before that, many horrible instances, like trying to gouge her eyes out. It was a very difficult time, difficult death. And then my dad's disease started. My dad ended up, we never knew then, but he had Huntington's disease, which is a really crappy disease. But it started to kind of become more apparent, just in different things that happened. Randy's mom tried to commit suicide, very seriously. It wasn't like a phony cry for help. She had mobility problems, and I love her. She was very good to me, and really embraced me. And she had mobility problems, but they found her outside behind the plaza. Some kids found her. She did live. We tried to fix that problem. We wanted her to come live with us. She couldn't live with her partner. She couldn't leave her partner, her husband, Randy's dad. His parents' relationship was very much like my parents' relationship. But the roles were reversed. His dad was the creep, and his mom was like super nice and really gentle. His dad didn't drink, so that was different, but it was very, very similar. And she wasn't able to leave him. My dad wasn't able to leave my mom, but he did at the end because she was physically, like, I think, going to kill him. He left in the night, came to our apartment. So anyways, then Randy's dad committed suicide. He was successful, and me and Randy were the last people to see him. It was Mother's Day. Yeah, so that was just a few of the bad things. What else we got here? Oh, yeah, and then my dad died. He died shortly after Randy's dad. That was a turning point for me. It was the Christmas before my dad died. We're up, my dad's there, me and Randy are there. You know, my dad's turning into a different kind of person, you know, and it's just different. And a friend came over and had just, it was Christmas, you know, halfway between sitting around, and I got dinner going, and a friend came over and he had just learned how to make smokable cocaine. So like with baking soda or however you do it. So it's very exciting, right? Like, well, you don't have to snort it, this is great. So that Christmas Day, it turned into that. Like, that was the focus for me and Randy. Like, and I know we were trying to go down, Bob stayed downstairs the whole time, and then Randy would go down, and then I'd go down, and then Randy would go down, and I'd go down, and then, you know, at the end, when you know it's running out, and you start getting greedy, it's like we're both down there making sure the other guys don't do it all first. And my dad's upstairs alone. I mean, my dad knew my history with drugs. He saw me wasted many times, like just, well, really wasted on PCP and stuff. But and he loved me, and he lived with my mom, and it just like he didn't deserve that. Like that was just like a really crappy thing for me to do to him. And he died shortly after that. And I know now that he loved me, and I did a lot of really great things for him too. But that was a turning point for me because it was just so. It wasn't who I wanted to be. Like, I mean, it wasn't who I wanted to be. And so I quit doing chemicals. Quit doing chemicals, drugs, of course, turned to AA, right? Trying to get it, you know, help me. Same problems with God, same problems with all of it. Yeah, so anyways, that was difficult. So then, I'm still smoking hash and drinking. When Randy came into my life, alcohol started coming into my life more. It wasn't so much before him. I mean, certainly I drank, but he was a drinker, and that became more into my life. And then now alcohol really took the place of drugs, and you know, hash was still there. So, but then I'm off chemicals, so it's like, well, maybe it's time to have a kid. Like all my friends had kids, and you know, I'm trying to stay clean. That will help me stay clean, and so that's what we did, and got pregnant, and I'll just tell you, with both my pregnancies, the way my conceiving time went like this. So you'd not drink, and then it'd come to where you get your period. If you get your period, you're not pregnant, and if you don't get your period, you're pregnant. So as soon as I get my period, it'd be kind of a drag because I'm not pregnant, but fuck, I can drink for 5 days. And that would be it. I drink like crazy for like, you know, I wasn't smoking hash. I stopped smoking hash like when we first started trying to conceive. So, but it was like, and I heard somebody else here say, people will hear things they've said, but that their maternal instinct, you know, was overshadowed by their need to use. And I mean, that's a pretty good example of that. Like, but anyway, so I'm pregnant, it's good, we're very good. Found out I'm having twins, like super excited. Like my doctor's excited. I'd worked in her office for a couple of years. I used to be a nanny for her. You know, the nurse is excited. The whole family's excited. You know, went over to Randy's. My friends are excited. I'm excited. It's like, this is fucking great. I'm gonna have twins. So then, less than 6 months in, my water broke. Got an ambulance to Hamilton. I'm going, I mean, I had on like fucking a hip hospital in Hamilton. They had no beds in, no beds in Toronto. But it was a fantastic hospital. They had fantastic care. But it was obviously horrible. Like our first baby, Arthur, we took off life support at 5 days. Arthur was 1 pound 8 ounces, Winston was 2 pounds 2 ounces. They were both on respirators, critically ill, ICU. So 5 days we decided to take Arthur off life support. He had a lot of physical abnormalities, so it was pretty clear there was something wrong. It turned out to be a chromosome problem, trisomy 13. We didn't know that till after, but they gave me a lot of morphine in those 5 days. I think it was like, grief, whatever. And so that part's fuzzy. I remember being in a room though, holding Arthur, my dead baby, and Sonia and Helen had come that day. It was a Wednesday, and they came from Toronto, my doctor and the nurse. And it was, anyways. So then 2 days later I get out of the hospital. I was there for a week, started smoking hash that night. And again, I didn't start drinking because I knew that would just be too much for me. And actually I gotta say, I think the hash was kind of helpful at that time. I would drive to Hamilton. I'd get up so early, drive out, there's all the traffic, I'd be so stressed out. Being in ICU with Winston, he lived for 3.5 months, so I'm back and forth every day all through the autumn. You're up, you're down, his oxygen's up, it's down, is he gonna live, and I'd come home and I was so stressed out. Like, I gotta admit that I kind of appreciated that hash at that time. Wouldn't go back to it now, but so anyways, so then it was a decision to take Winston off life support. We knew driving out there that day that that's what we were going to do because we had made the decision the day before. It was 4 days before Christmas. So the year after that was difficult. I got a job right away, like the next day, which was really great. I really needed that. I didn't need to be home. I mean, I'd already kind of been through this 3 months experience of it. And, so that was good, but that was a difficult time. And then the first family member to get murdered got murdered. Not somebody that I'm close to, but certainly close family members are. A police officer in Toronto, young, 24, shot and killed. His dad was a cop. Randy's sister's a cop. So that was challenging, just in the kind of like how life can blindside you. So that was a difficult time. Well, I gotta flip my page here. Let's see what other horrible things happened. Oh no, we're at the good part now. Bright light. No, I decided to get pregnant again. And then, yes, the bright light, my daughter. We had a healthy child, which was really great. I didn't start drinking right away, probably 4 months, I'm thinking. I don't know. But then I started again, the maternal instinct wasn't quite as strong. And then another relative got murdered. Our nephew was stabbed to death. And I really, I cared about him a lot. I was close to him. I mean, as close as you are to a young nephew, but yeah, that was really horrible and devastating for the family. And I love his mother to death, and it was a really difficult time. He was innocent, and then so then the other turning point for me that got me into a different vein of recovery was one night where I went to a friend's place, normal night. This isn't even like New Year's Eve or anything. So we go to a friend's place, come home, wake up the next morning, and we're laying there, and Randy goes, "Did you drive home?" And I go, "I don't know. Did you drive home?" "I don't know." And I go, "Well, I better go see if Nana's all right." So this is my baby in her crib. So I go down there, she's fine, but no recollection of driving home. One of us did. That again was like the time with my father, like just so not the person I want to be. So I started looking into like a real rehab, talked to my doctor. That was my first time I went to the Donwood. It started a long process, 17 years I think, of trying for recovery. After the Donwood, I was clean and sober for 2 years. That was my longest. In 38 years, I think I had a combined period of 6 years of being clean and sober. AA got me through 2 pregnancies. I didn't care how much I didn't like it. It kept me from drinking when I was pregnant. You know, I'd go there, it just gave me something to do. But, you know, it was just like, it was horrible. So anyways, so 17 years I was on this roller coaster of rehabs and mindfulness programs and, you know, individual psychotherapy paid for by OHIP, all of it paid for by OHIP actually. I've got to give credit to my country for that. You know, another rehab at the Dawnwood, a night one at North York General. And every time I'd relapse, I'd, you know, be happy to use for a while, but then obviously be desperate to quit again because I'm looking for another rehab. So just, it wasn't working, AA wasn't working. I tried AA, I know maybe 15 years ago, I tried so hard. It was Great Others Divine. That was my God. I had this acronym. I was trying to make it work. I could envision, you know, all the dead people in the past up there, a great field, a forest higher than me, greater than me. But it was so much work. It just didn't work. I don't know. So I gave up on AA again, and then back and forth using. So, and then the 2 years, I have to say, the 2 years that I quit, or that I had been quit, that was a classic just this time. Like, I know I can't ever take a drink now or do a drug. That time, I got genetically tested for Huntington's, because it is autosomal dominant. You have a 50% chance of getting it. I went and got tested. It was quite a process. So I go that day, I don't have it. Excellent. I leave, me and Randy are driving down Brimley. I just remember going, just one Mickey. Like, you know, I had so much going for me. I'd done the Dawnwood program, I was volunteering there, I'd, you know, gotten into I'd taken courses in Centennial and addiction recovery, I had a challenging job. You know, I was like, yeah, just this Mickey. I mean, this is big. This is a big day. And he was more than happy because he was always drinking. So he does somebody to have fun with for the night. And, well, of course, that didn't happen. You know, I'm back to drinking again. I'm back to using again. That was after that 2-year period of sobriety. And then after that, there was nothing more than months, I don't think. You know, maybe 3 or 4 months at one time. Used antabuse a lot. I found that a good tool. Antabuse is a drug that if you drink on it, you just physically get sick. It's not a psychotropic drug, you just physically get sick. And so that helped me out sometimes, but just, it was hard to start taking it. You never really wanted to stop. So the going back with Randy. Every time I'd come out of a rehab or, you know, whatever I was doing, I knew what a minefield that was. Like, going back to live with somebody that, you know, and we've been through so much together, like really everything. As parents, he was good to my parents. He saw my mom threaten me with guns. I mean, he just knew me. He was so good to me, and he was good for me. But this was just kind of, it was like, I couldn't just let him use. It never sat right. I was always jealous. I was jealous that he could use. I was resentful that he did use. It wasn't an easy thing to do, and it really wasn't something that I could do. I just kept going back to using. Let's just see. Oh, I'll just say that period of bad things, like the horrible deaths, the suicides, the dead babies, the murders. It put me in a place where I really felt like I can vividly, it wasn't even subconscious. I can remember sitting there drinking and going, okay, I shouldn't be doing this, right? This is bad. But I'd be going, but fuck, life's just gonna do something bad anyways. So if I drink, I'm kind of in control of the bad stuff, so then life won't blindside me. And, you know, it's not like, and if I'm feeling happy, you know, there's always another shoe that's gonna drop. And I was very much in that part of my life where that was a big thing for me, that I just couldn't seem to break out of that something crappy's always going to happen. So that's where I am. So fast forward to 2013, the end of 2013. So this is like 38 years into my first, trying to recover, I guess, something like that. I'm really, my whole life it's drugs and alcohol. My daughter had moved out. It's not like we were estranged, but she wasn't living at home. I was I still worked, but it was, just as much drugs and alcohol. Well, hash and pot if I couldn't have hash, and a lot of booze, as much as I could. Friday had come, wow, 2 solid days of nonstop drinking, 24 hours a day. Drink, eat, pass out. Drink, eat, pass out. Like, that was what it was. So the end of November, I come home from work, and I smoked a bunch of hash, probably drank a 26 in about 2 hours. I'm feeling really good. I trip on a little thing of metal that separates my dining room from my kitchen. I'm dancing by myself in the kitchen. And I fall and hurt my arm. And go to emerge, get up the next morning, finish off the vodka I hadn't drank the night before. That wasn't a lot though. I go back to bed because I'm exhausted. My arm is like really sore. I don't know what's wrong with it at this point. I think just I've been to emerge, don't know what it was. So I started taking the Antabuse because I had it from before, and I just could never quit drinking long enough to take it because you kind of like have to quit drinking for like 16 hours or something. So I started taking the Antabuse. It's like I can't drive to the liquor store. Again, it's like I've turned into who I don't want to be. Like that time after that, I had torn a tendon in my arm. I couldn't, it pinched a nerve or something every time I lifted my arm up a certain way. Couldn't put my coat on, couldn't tie my hair back. We had that ice storm. I weighed a lot. I'd gotten up to 318 pounds at one point. I was petrified of falling because, they'd have to get back up to help pick me up. I wouldn't be able to use my arm. I don't even know if I could get up on my own without my torn tendon. So I'm like fucking 90 years old. It was an ice storm. I'd go to work. I'd phone work and I'd go, can one of you girls come help me? And and they'd come out and I'd have my cane and petrified of falling. And I'm like, prior to that fall, I was at a point in my life, they talk about the physical, mental. I had diarrhea for 10 years, like debilitating, and only from drinking. Like I couldn't walk the kids to add them back at school because I'd be too far away from the toilet. Like it was so debilitating that I was shaky physically. I was falling asleep at my desk at work. I couldn't grasp complex ideas at work that were normally shouldn't be a problem. My eyes were all red. I was bloated. I was in a place of my life. I can remember sitting and drinking, and just not really. I don't know if I was suicidal. I think I was pre-suicidal. Like I'd start envisioning the world without me, and how my daughter might feel, but it might be better for her, and then I don't know. So I was just in a really, really, really bad place. So this quitting, I'm on the Antabuse. I've had the fall. It's horrible. It's horrible. I'm hating not being able to use. I know I can't use. Like everything about what is me is just horrible. Like I can't go back to using. There's no good end there, I see. But I'm going home. Randy's drinking heavily. I mean, he's still smoking hash. It's like, I'd walk in the door, you'd smell the vodka instantly. And it's just, it was visible. It was just so difficult. I went through Christmas just because of the Antabuse. I didn't think like I said, I'd given up on AA. I'd given up on any kind of rehab. I had no idea what could work. And then I was researching something else I read about at a church, a Universalist Unitarian church, where we are not Saints churches. And I read, I'm going online and I see their calendar, and I see this agnostic AA meeting. And it's like, you know, it was just like, that might work. So then I get to the part of, where am I? Where I am now. Well, here I am, over 3.5 years, clean and sober. And, and fuck if I'm not happy. Like I'm serious. I am absolutely free of the craving. I'm free of the obsession. I'm free of 150 pounds. I'm free of Randy. And that just all stemmed from walking down into that meeting. Like I totally believe that. I don't have a doubt in my mind about that. Like, and it's so great. So I'll just now, I don't know how much time there's left, but I'll just quickly go over a few of the things that have come to me in the interim, in that 3.5 years. So, spiritual experience, if I've had one, I think it's that I like myself. Like, before, like I said, I did a lot of things. I mean, you know, I quilt ribbons, I don't know, we make car rallies, you know, I made all kinds of things for people. I got a degree at night school. I mean, I did a lot of things, but I always felt like I was still using. Like, it just didn't feel like I was good enough. Even in my own heart, I didn't feel like I was good enough. And so that spiritual experience for me is just liking myself. Like just, it's like I got nothing now. When I go, wow, you did a good, like, I'm gonna actually feel pretty good when I get off this stage. And there's not gonna be anything that's gonna get in the way of that. That's gonna go, yeah, but there isn't. It's like I just feel good about myself. I feel connected to myself. And then that, I think, is the key to my ability to connect. Like, I think, like, with even things like in electricity or anything, like if you're putting pipes together, you know, you have to have both ends have to be healthy connectors to work, right? So now I'm actually, you know, I'm starting slowly to get to a place where I'm feeling healthier about myself, and it's because of connections coming to me through these secular meetings. Like, and I don't know how much of connection is to do with, you know, your neural pathways, or, you know, I suspect there is something there, but it's just gotten stronger for me, and it's gotten stronger and stronger, and I've connected to people in ways that so many of you know about, because it's happened for you too. You know, you'll hear somebody speak, whatever, and it's been incredible for me. I think back, and I know I had like detachment issues my whole life. Like, you know, I started out without a maternal bond at all. You know, I had a weak paternal bond. You know, my brother's abandonment at 10, you know, that was a big thing. My separation from my peer group just in the neighborhood. My separation from my peer group when I left school, hitchhiked, you know, I was on the road. I lived in a group home after that. The separation from my 2 babies. Just, you know, I had detachment issues for sure. And just slowly over time, and it didn't happen overnight. Like, you know, I was coming to these meetings for probably 3 or 4 months before I felt confident enough to stop taking the antabuse. You know, I just didn't. I was still living with Randy for a lot of that, so I still had that challenge. But I found the strength to figure out how to leave him, and just so much support. Like, I go to a lot of discussion groups, and, you know, I'll talk about things, and it's just been so incredible. And then, well, another thing too is sometimes I think, you know, you know, when I talk about drugs or coke, as somebody else mentioned, you know, you don't want to be sensationalistic and dead babies and murders, and like, it's not like you're playing up some story. But on the other hand, when I hear other people talk about things at meetings that are sensational, like, you know, like horribly abused by their mothers, or have had children die, or, you know, whatever. I don't ever think they're being sensationalistic. I think, wow, that person understands what I've been through, and it's just, it's a connection. It's so much a part of that connection, you know, hearing that what often made me feel very apart from everything, all of a sudden makes me feel part of something. And that ability to connect has transferred to other parts of my life. Like, you know, I should have never felt disconnected from my group of friends that I've had since high school, but I never really felt a part of that, and I should have. But now I do. I absolutely do. I walk into a party now, and I'm a part of that group, and I feel it. Now my colleagues at work, I'm a part of that. I don't feel a part. I feel a part of. It's like, it's wonderful. It's just spread. The concept of this only requirement for membership, that's a big one for me, is a desire to stop drinking. I don't have to get any of the other stuff. There's nobody telling me I'm doing it wrong. It doesn't matter about the steps or anything. You know, that's the only requirement for membership, and I really, really like that. That's a big one for me. The steps are interesting because of my experience with AA and trying them and failing and trying them and failing. I kind of railed against them coming in this time, but in the last six or 8 months, it's been kind of interesting because I've been thinking about step 1 and step 2. Which one's step 2? Or no, step 2. Step 1 I got, you know, war power, that's for sure. Oh yeah, it's step 2, this higher power. But you know what? Like I really railed against a higher power. It's like, well, for one thing, if somebody's up there, they could piss on me. Like, let's just be real. But, you know, really, a lot of the reading, it isn't even, it's a greater power. It isn't even a higher power. So I don't have to get a higher power to begin with, and I'm still in compliance with the steps. But what I started to realize is that it's, and you've spoken about the connection, Joe, of two people being powerful. And that's what I'm realizing, is that it is a power greater than me when I'm connecting with either one person or here in a group or in my small home group or at dinner or going to a concert with somebody from these rooms. You know, and that is, it's a power greater than me. And I was insane. Like, I mean, I wasn't acting in a sane manner prior to that, and I think I am now. So I think I got step 2. So, and AA is a foundation for me, absolutely. I don't see it as a higher power. I really see it as a foundation. I like that concept. It's there, and I like the thought of the ground as a foundation. Step 3 too. I fought against turning my will over. It's like, no, I need my will. I'm not turning my will over. Like, fuck you. And but now I'm starting to see it a little differently. And this happened not long ago. It's like when I go into a meeting, I let those defenses down, like my willpower and, you know, my ideas and my morals and my values. I do want to protect, of course. I don't want to give them up. But when I go to a meeting, I let my defenses down for the span of the meeting. And, you know, I really try not to pass judgment. I do a little guided imagery now that I actually started thinking about this. When somebody's saying something that just sounds so dickish to me, I'm like, just let those walls down. You don't have to argue it right now. Just take it in. And I do. And before I go back out, put those walls back up, you know, I'm still protecting myself. I still got my will. I still have to, you know, be in charge here. But I think about things that people have said, and it, you know, it often maybe changes the thing. Or another thing, sorry Joe, but that I've heard you say is that's that person's story. And I try to think of that when somebody's saying something that just is like, oh, you're kidding me. But it's like that's their story. And it might have worked really well for them. It might be working very well for them, and it might really help somebody else who my story means nothing to. And so it's just kind of accepting that this is a real amalgamation of all kinds of people. So now, if anybody new is going, wow, how long is it going to take me to do those steps? Well, it was probably 40 years for me to get to that. So don't expect too much too quick. And then just a few other little things. Ego. I have two more quick ones. Just, I hear people talking about, I got to give up my ego. That one that's the one I still kind of go, are you nuts? But I don't know. I think I had so many years of, my mom and my ex-husband telling me that I wasn't good enough, I wasn't whatever enough, I just wasn't enough, that I want to feel proud of myself. And if that's what you're talking about, ego is your pride, and it's like, that's a good thing. I really want to feel good about it. I want to be empowered. I don't want to overpower other people, and I don't want to be a prick, but I want to feel good. And to me, my ego is kind of the buffer in between, being nutty and, I don't know, just it's what I want. Meetings, they make me a better person. I heard somebody say that at a meeting. Meetings, whatever, they just make me a better person. So, I'm going to get to the end. That night, when I walked out of my first We're Not Saints meeting, as I've said before, I had no idea what I was getting into, but I do remember walking up the stairs going, holy fuck, this could work. And just really feeling it. You know what? Holy fuck, it did work. Like I'm serious. Like it was like I went in hopeless, and it just gave me a spark of hope, and it was such a warm feeling and fighting, and nothing about it was oppositional, and it was just wonderful. So that's about it. It's an honor to be here.